Welcome back to In the Wings, the podcast that keeps you up to date on all things Beechmont Players. I'm your host, Michael Yarrick, and today we are diving into part 2 of our special season reveal episode. In the last episode, we just got a sneak peek at the first half of our season for 2025 and 2026, and today we're continuing that conversation with 3 fantastic directors, Arlene Balczo, Steve Phelan, and once again, Dan Cohen, and they will tell us all about the rest of that season. Just like before, these interviews were recorded over holiday break, so we're video calling with people from all over the place, and we really appreciate your patience with any of those audio quirks that kind of come with different audio setups. We are very excited to bring you even more insight into what's ahead and on the horizon for the Beechmont Players, so let's get into it. All right, and now we are here with Dan, going to be directing something a little bit different for us in this coming season. Dan, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be. Am I the first returnee to the podcast? Returning guest?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, we will also have Arlene on this episode, so she will be the second.
But she's going to appear later in the show.
she'll come after you. So you are the first returnee. Wow, what an honor!
Okay, great. What an honor. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited. So I know that we're going to be doing a holiday themed radio drama in December of 2025, and I'm really excited for that for a few reasons. Just from the group's perspective, I think it's just really important that we see opportunities to engage with the community, which holiday shows generally have like really great community engagement. We've been missing that opportunity for years, I think, of capitalizing on the need that people have during the holiday season to just find entertainment options for their kids and for their families. And I think it's a great counterbalance to some of like maybe the darker, more serious material that we're going to be doing that year. Is just it really does lend the something for everyone credibility to a season where it's going to be a large cast. It's going to be a familiar story, and also presented in the thing that appeals to me as a director is that a radio drama can be kind of static and boring if it's just on the basic level. It's just people potentially just sitting in chairs and reading from a script. So it's really interesting and a fun challenge as a director to find the levels, find the visual engagement to go along. I've never worked with a live Foley sound artist before, so I think I'm super excited about that and incorporating as much Foley sound into the show. I did 1940s Radio Hour 20 years ago, 20 almost exactly, directed by the late Robert Weidel, and who just recently passed away. And we had Foley sound in that show, and people just love watching it. There's something about the magic of like breaking the fourth wall, and also sort of like the creative solutions that the sound Foley artist uses for creating a different sound. That really excites me. I think it's going to be a really fun thing. We have the sound artist already confirmed. It's a friend of mine, David Levy, who has done Foley sound Falcon for Ensemble Theater. And he's just a super nice guy. We love to have him be a part of the group as well. So I think in general, it's just a great challenge as a director, to make it visually interesting and varied. It's an interesting challenge for the actors to find their characters while they're still reading from a script. And maybe like best of all, it's sort of lower commitment level, I think, for the holidays. So a lot of the struggles people have during holiday shows is you're rehearsing, and a 20 rehearsal stretch is not really feasible for a lot of people during this time of year. So the goal is to do it with 5 rehearsals, and kind of get it done that way. So cramming a lot of ideas, a lot of thought into a small process, a short process, really appeals to me as well, because I don't know if you guys know this, I hate rehearsals.
You're not alone in that.
I love
But
rehearsals.
I'm really excited. I think it's a great opportunity.
Let me rephrase. I don't like unproductive rehearsals. How about that?
That's
Fair. That's
Yeah.
very fair.
that's a much more politically correct way of saying that to a bunch of theater people, I think.
I wasn't
I'm
worried about it.
I'm a fan of rehearsals, whatever. That's where we make friends. Uh,
That is
okay.
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in the context of our larger season, we're doing this season called Stranger Than Fiction. That's going to be heard like a million times throughout this episode. I know it already. Where the season's kind of focused on real world connections. I know we're still spitballing a few different ideas for this Christmas radio drama right now. Um, do you have any sort of like hopes or like overarching like thoughts in mind that you want to share regarding that and how it could fit into this season loosely? Or I again,
Sure.
this is the one that's kind of the loosest connection I think for us, but
Sure. It potentially is. I mean, I think that the number one perform production that we've kind of talked about is It's a Wonderful Life. And I'd be completely happy doing that show. It's a thing that everyone knows. It's got like a warm familiarity. And I
yeah,
think that for me, that's the Stranger Than Fiction connection is that It's a Wonderful Life is like a show that there's a movie that literally like every person who's older than 10 years old has probably had some engagement with in some way in their life. It's like doing a Friends episode or something, you know, like people have like a personal outside of the theater connection to this material. So if we end up with that piece of material, it's personal to people in a way that, you know, really no other shows can be. Very, very few shows. Like, and really even like we as theater people might have really personal connections to like a Shakespeare play that everyone sort of knows, like Romeo and Juliet or a Arthur Miller play. But that's pretty still narrow. I mean, if you think about theater is still very niche as far as like worldwide interest. But It's a Wonderful Life is something that probably every American at least has engaged with in some way and is familiar with it. Even non-Christians, non-Catholics are familiar with Jimmy Stewart and familiar with Donna Reed and like that material. So it is a loose connection, but
yeah,
um, people have a personal outside of the theater world connection to that material. And if we end up not doing that show, we've tossed around some ideas about our own adaptation of something familiar. And I've asked um, the collaborators, one of whom is Mike, to keep in mind like maybe a real Christmas story.
yeah,
There's really famous ones about like World War II soldiers sort of laying down their arms for the holiday to celebrate with their foes across the field, you know, those kinds of things. And there's some really amazing real life holiday stories that I think we can adapt into great material if we end up not going in this Wonderful Life direction.
yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna have more on that in the future. Promise to come. I think part
Soon.
Yeah, absolutely soon. But I think the larger idea of just us doing a radio drama in general is very exciting, especially in addition to this sort of like wacky season that we've got going on. Wacky and dark,
Oh,
I should.
can I like jump in and just for the audience's sake of clarification, a little peek behind the curtain as to
Yeah.
why we're not committing to It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Everybody is really interested in like that's the show. It's like really exciting, and I think that we would all be really delighted to do that show because it has such great name recognition, and that's one of the things a struggling theater needs is shows that have name recognition. The company that owns the rights to that show doesn't extend rights outside of the calendar year that we
Yep.
do the show. So we cannot even apply for the rights for it until, you know, 2 months from now.
Yep.
So there's no reason to believe we will be denied, but it's still a possibility up until we get the approval. So we want to do that show. That's the show that we're striving to do, but we're going to do a holiday radio show no matter what.
Mhm.
Right.
So we have to have backup plans.
Absolutely. And so we're working on plans B, C through F, basically.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
okay, Dan, the last question we've been asking everybody. You know our season. You know it inherently well because we've talked about
Mhm.
it in length. Is there a specific show in the season that you are extremely excited for. I think we're all pretty excited about all of them. But if you
Yeah.
had to pick one that you're like, oh, this one's kind of the one that I'm like antsy about the most, which one would it be?
Yeah, I think my first response would be A Steady Rain because my dad is the director for that show.
Sure.
And I'm very happy to have him uh as part of the group. But I think that my more honest answer is All Things Considered. And I I think that it's such a cool opportunity to present new material. Um, no community theaters are really doing that on like a large scale. We do have Drum Workshop does homebrew, which is original plays, short plays, but I can't remember the last time. I mean, I know that it does happen, but we're really leading off the season with an unknown work from a very talented young playwright and a talented director. Uh, and I think that for a lot of reasons, it's just exciting. It sort of breaks the mold of like some breaks the mold of traditional storytelling in some ways. I think that it gives us a lot of flexibility to um, start the season off and like really show what we're trying to do philosophically moving forward. Um, I would hate to have like had all of this time where we're talking about trying to be creative and trying to do new stuff and different things in different ways, and then like started with something kind of traditional.
Hmm.
Um, that would be sort of undermining our talking points that we've been using. Budgetary constraints aside, I think it's like really a really good play. It's funny, it's interesting, it does move really well, and we're going to do it in a new space, which I'm really excited about. Regardless of where that space might be, we haven't, I don't think, 100% ironed that out yet, but uh,
We might by the time
it,
this episode releases, though.
yeah, hopefully. I mean, but we're all the places we've talked about are exciting venues for us to possibly like partner with. And I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for us to dip our toe into um, a different kind of storytelling that we really haven't as a group. We have not done before. And I think if it's successful, um, it opens up a lot of doors for us. And even if it's like not financially successful, I have no doubt we'll be artistically successful. So
Yeah.
um, to me, those are two separate measurements. But because of the way we're approaching it, the financial success is a much easier like bar to clear than it would have been in a traditional way. So I'm really not concerned about that. I'm just really excited to sort of put our best foot forward on that one.
Yeah. I officially owe Dan $50 for saying all those nice things about my play. Um but no, I think
Call it a donation to the group.
yeah. No, while we're talking about that, and obviously Dan is the president of Beechmont, so I think we can go a little bit further in depth on that. Like that is the balance, right? Navigating every theater company has the financial side, but sometimes that desire to be extremely creative, those two things can combat a lot. So
Yeah.
finding the way where those can intersect in a way that's not such a risk that we risk losing the theater company,
Yeah.
but gives us the opportunity to be as creative as possible and really make us feel fulfilled in the work that we're doing.
I have a story if we have time. I have a
Sure.
thing that I think about a lot when it comes to that. And as the president of the group and as sort of uh, a person who wants to do out there wild stuff, um, 20 something years ago, there was a theater group in Cincinnati called Stage First, and their mantra was to do like classic material, so Shakespeare, like restoration comedies, those kinds of things. And there's a limited audience for that to begin with. I think we would all agree. At least in a small city. Like if you're in New York, like there's probably like a market for like doing nothing but like, 1820s restoration English comedy. But uh, so they like did this great season and then they lost money and they failed. They went out of business, but they got a grant for over 100 grand to do another season.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they were doing shows at the Aronoff. Like it was not a small thing. Um, and the season that they picked was like the most obscure, like he, like to his credit, Nicholas Korn, who was the founder of that group, he didn't ever like really sacrifice his creative values. We did Richard II, which is maybe Shakespeare's most boring history play. Um, I was in that. That's why I say we. Um, and then he followed that up with like uh, a self-written commedia dell'arte musical.
Oh, wow.
Um, so like it was a commedia dell'arte piece that so it was all in that style, but like with written by himself, with the music by a local guy. And then he did Ghosts, which is maybe Ibsen's like fifth most popular play, and he ended it with like something else I can't remember, but like he to the end, like they went out of business again. Uh, but he didn't like sacrifice any bit of his sort of artistic integrity. So he
Sure.
was like, I'm gonna shove these really obscure, uh, unheard of plays down people's throats and like let's just see what happens. Like, and I think about that a lot because my inclination is to do weird stuff. Like I like weird. I like out there material,
Hmm.
but the audience only has a limited appetite for it. And um we really can't says no groups can sustain. Like there's no group, Marymount is a group that I really admire and they do plays that I've never heard of before, but they also do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And they also
Hmm.
do like You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Um and they do a really great job of mixing and matching more challenging material with like material that just knows they know they're going to sell season tickets doing. Um, and we are ultimately a business. That's so like we have to have those things in mind. And I think that this is a season is one with the holiday show and Cheaper by the Dozen sort of anchoring the like a little bit more out there material. Even Love Letters is a show that um, people love. There's a whole group of people that have seen us say that we're doing that show, and they're like, "I love that show. I did that show."
Yeah.
And it's a really well-known, beloved show during it's a romantic show during Valentine's Day. So I'm hoping that is to our advantage as well. But I think we've done, and this is I shouldn't say you did a great job programming a season that uh, does some strange stuff. Like A Steady Rain is nobody has done that show, and maybe we'll ever do it again. But we've got the right people doing it, so um, it's exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan. I know we've heard from you when talking about Kia's show. We've heard from you about this one. And you might be our first three-peat guest because the president of theater company's always got to get his face out there. So,
Oh yeah,
face,
put me on
voice,
anytime.
Voice,
voice
yes.
out there. I don't know why I said face because I'm
Voice, yeah,
staring
we're
at
not.
Dan's face right now.
Maybe someday we'll do a YouTube channel.
Sure, sure.
Hint, hint to our social media person
Haha.
Who may or may not be
who may or
not
may not be on this call.
on yeah on this call. All right, thanks so much, Dan. We appreciate you as
Yeah,
always.
thank you.
And now we're going to sit down with Steve Phelan, who's going to be directing Love Letters by A.R. Gurney in February of 2026. So welcome, Steve.
That's a long time from now.
I know.
We gotta get in early.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just curious what drew you to the show and like why are you interested in directing it?
Well, it's interesting because I've performed in this show a couple of times, and I find it to be a really complex, very emotional story with a pair of people that everybody I think will be able to relate to in a lot of different ways. Love Letters is the story of Melissa and Andrew, who are childhood friends, and their whole lifelong relationship is told entirely through letters that they exchange over the decades as they navigate, childhood and school and marriage and careers, and as the author says, missed opportunities. I think the audience is going to want to have some tissues handy for this one. It's a real emotional roller coaster.
Oh, I love that. And you said you'd been in it. How long ago was that?
The last time was just about 2 or 3 years ago, I think.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
I love that.
I always have a lot of trouble. When I say emotional, I had trouble because I could rarely get through the second act without crying as one of the actors on stage.
Oh,
Oh, that's awesome though. That's like a great experience for the audience. Like, oh,
Yeah.
feel it alongside you. Yeah, it's
awesome.
funny. Our president Dan actually like introduced me to this piece, and I was like, "Oh, this is really good, like very compelling too." And I totally agree. Like, it's just the most relatable sort of story.
Yeah, I think everybody's got things like they experienced in their life somewhere, whether
Yeah.
you're very young or very old.
Is there anything, having been in it before, is there anything that you're excited to revisit, or so, or maybe something from the first time you're like, "Oh, I have an idea for this," you know?
Well, it's interesting because it's not a lot of set. In
Yeah.
fact, it's essentially these two people just reading their letters as they sit in chairs. Sometimes they'll stand and move around, but it's an interesting style. It's called formally, it's called epistolary. Epistolary, that's it,
Hmm.
which means told entirely through letters. So people write books in that fashion
Oh,
sometimes, and there's a couple plays around, but hardly anybody writes letters anymore.
yeah.
So you could argue that it's kind of out of touch. But people still have to communicate. They have a need to communicate. And there's a lot to be said for doing that in a way that lets you kind of think about what you're saying, refining your thoughts, choosing your words in a way that you can't do when you're in a face-to-face conversation.
Hmm.
So I think what I want to do is I want people to think of these letters as if they were emails or text messages. And to that extent, everybody's familiar with it, and that epistolary style is still perfectly relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, you could think of it as if you were being copied on a decades-long string of these more modern communications, and then you get a sense of how intriguing it is to follow a story as these two people share all their hopes and dreams and disappointments with each other over the years.
God, that's a new vocab word for me. Can you say it one more time, Steve?
Epistolary.
Epistolary. Would it be safe to say that the book version of Color Purple is that? Because it's all
I'm not familiar with it, Michael,
oh, I
so I can't tell you. I'm sorry.
so no, that's okay. So every chapter is a different letter that she wrote her sister, and then later in the book you get letters that her sister wrote back, and that's the whole
Yes,
book.
yes, exactly.
So that
Another version of it was, what did Michael Crichton write? The Andromeda Strain, which was
mm,
not just letters, but also memos and things like
uh,
that that they
okay.
put together. But no characters are deliberately, and then John said, and then,
Right, right.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good word. That's the vocab word of the day.
One of my favorite books is My Sister's Keeper, and it's not exactly like this, but every chapter is like from the perspective of a different character.
Hmm.
So she like writes in like different fonts or styles like per chapter, so you know which character it is. It's really cool.
That
So
must be very difficult to do. That's a lot of different voices.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I would not want to keep track of that. That would be
And the thing that's interesting is this starts out with these two characters as children. I mean, they're writing
oh
about being invited to a birthday party and things like that. And so you
wow.
have the actors portraying two children all the way until they're in their 60s.
Oh,
And that's
I love that.
well, that's hard to write. I mean, similarly, right? You have to write in the voice of children and then through the decades, right? I mean,
Exactly. And it makes it interesting for the actors to do, I think,
yeah.
because they really are playing different characters, although separated by time instead of by people.
Yeah. Man, what a challenge. And that's like, you do all this work of like as an actor, oh, you want to know your background and your, like where you're headed in the future and all that stuff. And now you have to like literally know all of that contextually as you go forward, which is yeah,
Hmm.
that's a
It's
fun.
just good storytelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of storytelling, our season theme for next season is Stranger Than Fiction. So can you tell me what the real world connection in your show is, and what do you hope audiences will kind of take away from having this connection in present day?
I think when you look at it, it's basically just that things don't change, that there are things that we have in common with other people in other times. And let's face it, that's a pretty basic theme of almost every story there is. But this one just seems particularly apt to me. These are people that went to Ivy League schools and were artists in New York City. And, one came from a rich background and one didn't, and so on. And you you wonder what you have in common with them. And I think in the course of this, you realize that you have all kinds of things in common with them.
Mm. And we had talked to, and I think we can say this on the podcast because we're not keeping it a secret. We had talked about, for Beechmont's version of this, using actual theater couples for the show, right?
Mhm.
So these couples will be bringing their real world, sort of love story to the love letters in the play, which is kind of really, really a fun connection too.
They may not bring the specific events
Right.
with them, but they'll certainly bring the emotions with them.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I think that's going to be fascinating. I'd like to do it with at least three different couples, and
Yeah.
would be even more if we could talk it into, because the sort of play it is where you're reading it, you don't have to memorize this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be familiar with what you're doing, but you don't have to memorize it. So somebody can step in, do one or two performances and enjoy it, and all their friends can see it. And then we move on to somebody else. And each
Yeah.
performance will be different.
Oh, absolutely. Because different pieces of the story will reflect to different, or will, hit people differently.
Yeah, resonate with different people
Yeah.
or
Oh,
different experiences, I guess.
yeah. So then you could say the hope is too that somebody could come to every show or every other show or whatever and catch a totally different kind of take on the piece.
Well, I will definitely be doing that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I would be happy to have other people buy tickets for every show as well, but I don't know how many people will do that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that.
No, that is really cool. That's going to be, I think, really exciting.
Yeah. And right around Valentine's Day too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Exactly.
It's perfect. Oh, I love that. I love that so
it's
much.
gonna be a lovey show with tons of tissues.
We'll get a lot of people in the mood for Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Oh, that's going to be awesome. Um, so is there another show in the season that you're particularly excited for?
I'm interested in the Christmas radio play that we're planning
Yeah.
on doing. Those are just fun. I mean, in that style of show, you're watching the actors, they're not dressed up like the characters or anything. They're real people speaking the lines. So it's almost like watching a play through some kind of lens that strips away all the weird stuff and lets you see exactly how it happens. But I think we're all fascinated by that. The sound effects, where you have somebody standing there at a table making clip-clopping horse noises, or a door creaking open or whatever, and
Yeah.
you see different actors doing, or one actor doing different people, and I think it's just fun for people to watch.
Yeah, totally different style than maybe most audiences members are used to, right? When they come to traditional stuff.
Yes. I mean, very, very few people anymore were around in the days when that kind of thing was happening, but it is fascinating. If I could reincarnate myself, I would go back and be a radio actor in the 1930s and 40s.
Yeah, I would. I don't know. Forget performing. I would just want to do the sound effects, the Foley stuff. That just sounds so
Yes.
much fun. Ugh.
Have you watched any of those, so Disney has released a lot of behind the scenes videos for their Foley artists, like on Disney Plus or whatever. And it's pretty wild, ingenuitive the way these people come up with I wish I had an example off the top of my head, but they have these random pieces of what you would think is junk, and then they've turned
Yeah.
it into total soundscape heaven.
I mean, and frankly, it can be fun, even something as simple as breaking glass, and you watch somebody dropping a brick into a box of window glass.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see a show one time where there was there was a trash, a really tall trash can, and the actor would take glass and just slam it into the bucket, throughout the piece,
Hmm.
which is just fun to see.
Or somebody with a big sheet of aluminum that they're rattling to make the noise of thunder or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And everybody's going, "Oh, that's how they do that."
Or putting shoes on your hands and squishing them into something, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
I did a show where the pit band did all the sound effects also. And so next to the piano player, she had this bucket of slop, and she would just take a wet rag and like slush, slush, right? Like kind of for a plunger sound effect.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like disgustingly hilarious, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What show is that?
Um, oh, it was an original adaptation of like a Moliere piece. His La
Oh,
Amor
cool.
Medicine or whatever. Um, but yeah, there was a doctor in it who cured people with enemas. So we always had this like slop
Oh
plungers.
no.
It's very disgusting. I'm sorry,
Ah.
but
Much information, Michael.
I'm so sorry. All right, off topic. Christmas show, Christmas joy. Yeah, it's wholesome. We swear.
And it's interesting because it'll be a story that people know. We're
Yeah,
not sure what it'll be, I guess, yet, but it'll be a
right.
story that people are familiar with. So they'll kind of know what could be coming, and they're going to be sitting there going, how are they going to make this happen?
Yeah.
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 Where's that? How are they going to do that sound effect? Yeah. Or like if you see the person with the table of implements and you're like, "Ooh, what's that going to be used for? What's that going to be used for?"
Right.
Yeah. The whole sort of guessing the future is kind of fun in that.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I'm super excited for that one as well.
That's 2 for 2 right now. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Christmas radio play is the one that people are excited for. I love that. I will say Ed Cohen also mentioned love letters because him and his wife I think did that piece like a while ago. So that one's a familiar one in the community for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we recorded it once for the Association for the Blind. So not as a
Whoa.
talking book, but as a performed radio play, if you
Yeah.
will. And it was perfect for them.
Oh my gosh, that's
That's
amazing.
that's awesome. I love that.
Holy cow. That's a beautiful connection.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Something to think about.
Yeah, like, ideas.
I'm sure
Awesome.
they'd be glad to have new versions.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah. And they could potentially have three new versions too,
Exactly.
right? So,
Choose your stars.
Yeah.
yeah. Forget choose your own adventure. Choose your own stars. It's fine.
We
Love
ought to
that.
have a contest and ask people who they would like to see, not for us to do it, but after they see it, who would they like to see perform this? What married couples or couple
Yeah.
couples?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. If you could cast like two celebrities, who would you cast?
Oh, Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman.
Oh my goodness. I love
Oh.
that. I would pay so much money to see that. Like, oh, that's so good.
Wow, that's you had I know you acted like you didn't have something, but you thought of that right away.
Yeah, it came pretty easy. And then, of course, when you think of Rhea Perlman, you think of The Princess Bride. And I'm thinking, who could I put with Billy Crystal?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Oh, I love it. Mike, who would you cast?
oh no. So I don't know. Any two celebrities? Do you have one in mind?
No, I don't. That's
Do
why
you have
I'm
a
asking
pairing?
you.
You threw it to me. We'll have to cut out some of my processing here because I don't
Yeah.
know.
I like unusual combinations. I thought of Danny DeVito because I thought of him and Arnold Schwarzenegger playing twins, which is a real off-camera sort of thing, except
my-
they did it on camera, of course.
Yeah,
I think Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds would be fun.
they're not old enough, but in some years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Steve. I am so excited for Love Letters. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Kiya. I hope everyone comes to see it
They better.
And
Just
more
saying.
than once.
Yes.
more than once.
3 times at least.
And last but not least, we have Arlene Balczo with us to talk about the show that she will be directing in our season, which is
Cheaper by the dozen.
yay, adapted for the stage by Christopher Sergel. If I'm saying that correctly, if not, somebody will let me know. I promise. Yeah, Arlene, we went back and forth about this title a little bit. Do you want to tell us what kind of got you excited about this show specifically?
You and Dan Cohen.
I love that. Yeah, Dan brought the show up to me, and then we were talking. We're like, Arlene would kill this show, and
Aw.
And, you know, I'm sure anybody listening knows about Arlene's awesome, huge success with Fun Home recently. So Arlene was already on the brain, and we're like, this sounds like an Arlene show. Thankfully, Arlene was in fact interested. Um, yeah, Arlene, do you have any history with the either the book, the movie? I saw the movie as a kid.
Um, I do. I remember reading it as a preteen, and I just want to say that if people listening to this podcast hear purring, it's not me; it's my cat who will not leave my lap. But when you guys mentioned it to me, I was like, "Oh, I remember loving this as like a preteen." I
Yeah,
don't think I saw the movie, but I remember reading the book and
yeah,
liking that. So now I just need to dive back into studying it.
yeah,
Really looking at the script. What I think the one thing I love the most about it is I get to work with young people again. I enjoy
yeah,
working with young performers, and it has a really good family feel to it. So not only are young people in the show will be relatable to young people as well as their parents and grandparents.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That was one of the things we talked about because you just did such a good job with the three kids that were in Fun Home. Like literally, I mean, the kids couldn't stop talking about you backstage in the green room. I don't know if we told you that, Arlene, but they would.
Thank
That's
you.
yeah, they
It
were
was
literally
so
like
cute.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
raving about you backstage. So then when you have the script with like a bunch of kids in it, you're like, oh well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The kids love Arlene, so
Aw.
yeah,
Well, the nice thing is too that yes, there'll be some kids in it. It is called Cheaper by the Dozen because there are a dozen kids, but we only see 8 of them in the show.
right.
One child actually dies at a very young age, so yeah, they had a dozen kids, but one didn't live but a few years, and then the other 3 are like they call them the babies, so they're always upstairs. They're not on the stage, so we don't see them. And the older girls, I would say the 3 older girls could be played by young women that still look like they could be 16, 17, and 18.
Sure, sure. So yeah, nice, very, very good age range diversity in that show, which
Hmm.
is also a big a draw for us because we Beechmont does typically have actors from a wide age range. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so our season theme is Stranger Than Fiction, so shows that have some sort of real world connection. Do you want to talk about that from this show, Arlene?
Yeah, I didn't know that until you and Dan shared with me that it was based on a real family, the Galbraith family, if I said that right.
Yeah,
It might be Gilbreth family.
yeah.
And there it takes place, if I'm not mistaken, either late 40s, early 50s.
Hmm.
And the dad was like an engineer of efficiency. That's kind of the title that I would give him. He liked to see what he could develop to make everything run more efficiently,
Mm.
and he brings it into the home. And I haven't studied it enough yet to know exactly what, but I think a lot of his things have made a difference in the real world even today.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. That's
Right.
awesome.
And so I'm eager to really study that. I've ordered some books on Amazon that haven't come in yet,
Yeah.
but I think that will be fun to see. But I think what I also noticed as a similarity is the dad's a lot like Captain Von Trapp
Yep.
and how he runs his household, which can be efficient, but then it can be cold at times.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the neat thing about the story is the arc of the show on how the relationship changes between the dad and especially his oldest daughter by the end of the show.
Yeah. Arlene, have you ever worked on Sound of Music out of curiosity?
I directed it at Mason High School.
Oh, okay. So, okay, because now I'm like from Fun Home to or Sound of Music to Fun Home, and now to Cheaper by the Dozen. That's you. Your shows kind of have the theme of that, the dad who runs a tight ship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's probably others in there too that I can't think of right
sure.
now. But I think that it'll be a neat thing. It almost seems a little bit like um, I would go from even the Fantastics
Hmm.
to Our Town, the simplicity of
Yeah,
just everyday life. I think you'll see that a lot in this show as well.
yeah. And that's one of the things we kind of got excited with about the potential of this theme for the season is just like the relatability of knowing that this is well, these are like real world scenarios, which arguably most theater pieces have that, right? That connection to the real world. But
Yeah.
but knowing that this was a real family, and we're like now depicting them as a special sort of challenge and excitement in that, I think.
I think that's the thing that I like the most about the show is that it's based on a real family, and I love true stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's yeah, with the sorrow and the good times,
Mm-hmm.
and all the times in between. So the last question we've been asking everybody, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. So we've gone through our whole season at this point. We've got All Things Considered, an original play by yours truly, myself. A Steady Rain by Keith Huff, Love Letters by A.R. Gurney, and then Cheaper by the Dozen, as well as a Christmas radio drama that we'll be doing in December. Out of all those titles, Arlene, are there any of those that kind of excite you the most?
Well, I don't know any of them, so I'm excited to see all of them because I like seeing theater I've never seen before.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, because I've worked with you, Mike, and I've seen your talents as far as acting and singing and playing musical instruments go and directing, now I want to see how you write. So I'm looking forward the most to seeing what you've put together.
Oh, that's very nice of you. No pressure.
No pressure at all, Mike.
I have to pay Arlene the $100 I promised her for saying nice things about me on the podcast. Just kidding. Oh, I love that. I'm excited for that one too, and seeing how that kind of plays out. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Kiya, any closing words to that you want to throw in?
I'm excited to see your writing style come to life as well too, Mike. But no, I remember watching the Steve Martin version of the movie. Like,
yep.
yeah. And I remember it being like a lot more comedic than the original story. And,
Sure.
But I don't fully remember the original story, which is the problem. But I remember both being really good.
I think the original movie, if I'm not mistaken, I was kind of reading through the other day, came out like in the 50s.
Oh,
so it's been a long time. And I heard the Steve Martin version, they changed the names.
Yeah.
And maybe change some of the storyline. Whereas the movie version that originally was made follows the book a little bit more authentically.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to watch both anyhow, because it's not going to affect how I direct the show, since the show itself is a one set show.
Yeah.
Which is going to be nice too. So you have to come up with your own way of making it exciting for the audience.
Yeah. So there was actually a movie that came out in 2022. Disney made a remake of it. And in that version, they actually turned it into what do you call it? It's a blended family, an interracial couple. So like kind of an added layer to the whole scenario as well. I watched that one too and also enjoyed it. But the whole premise in general, just having like all these people kind of like living on top of each other and navigating life, is, I just think, really compelling, right? So
everybody will be able to relate to the struggles of getting along with your brothers and your sisters and your parents, and trying to find your way, especially with boys. That seems to be the big theme of this play.
Yeah, that tracks. Awesome. Arlene, thank you so much for hopping on with us again. Always a joy to have you.
Thank you. You guys have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
This has been another episode of In the Wings, a podcast production telling you about all things Beechmont Players. If you'd like to get involved with us or see what else we've got going on, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can do so via our website, beechmontplayers.org. Link in the description. Until next time.